We're back. T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Dark Side, telling stories, talking fishing, talking hunting, and I brought another weirdo. I know Lat probably doesn't want to, he probably hasn't been called a weirdo before, but I can tell you if you're a friend of mine, people think you may be a little bit off. Lat Durance, I appreciate you coming out tonight.
Yep. I've been called a lot of things by you, Mike, but
Never a weirdo. Huh?
I think that's the first.
Yeah. Well, I'm one too, and I realize that. I'm ate up with fishing and hunting and all that good stuff, and I know you're one of them guys too. Lat, when I think back to this monster that's been created, which is me and hunting and fishing and all this
Sure.
killing, you were one of the first guys ever. I killed my first hog with Lat, first hog ever, and I remember it. It had to be 98, maybe 2000. I'm thinking.
I think you got 98,
98,
99.
because we were in this store in 96 in the new T.A. Mahoney. We'd moved from downtown, and I remember it was in here. And the first trip going hog hunting, I had a mutual friend of ours, Billy Curry, and Billy told me, Bill Curry Ford.
Matthews Curry Ford, yep.
Yep, he came in, and he's down there now, isn't he?
He is,
And
yeah.
Matthews,
Matthews Curry Ford, Billy's down there in Nokomis.
Yeah, good guy, man. He called me up, see if I wanted to go hog hunting. Said he had the best hog hunting guide around, had the best dogs in the world, is what Billy told me. And I said, well, I've never really personally, I'd never really even seen dogs work before. So for me, it was an adventure. And was that on Billy's property down there in Northport?
Yeah, it was a 9,000 acre lease they had down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went down there, and I'll tell you what, it was one of the funnest times. My
Whoa.
first hog I took with a pistol. And the thing that stands out the most, and I'm going to let you tell your side of it, the thing that stands out, and I always chuckle about when I tell that story to my friends, I said, I'm telling you, this guy had a dog that would bay him quick. And I remember that. Let him out. We just sat on the buggy. Boom, you hear him baying, we run in and get him. And he's got a big hog. And you were telling me that he only got big hogs. So I'm thinking, okay. So we get out there, the dogs are running crazy. And all you were worried about was how good I could shoot. I remember that. You were going, don't shoot my dog. Don't shoot my dog. And I'm saying, I shoot 100 rounds a week. I ain't going to shoot your dog. I don't shoot my dog. I'm going to call him off. And it worked that good. You called that dog off. Incredible control of the animal, which I really appreciate the training that goes into any animal with that kind of control. This dog was circling this pig so fast, amped. I mean, you could see it in that dog. And you may not want to hear this, but this is what happened. The dog was so pumped up, he popped that pig's tail off. And I don't know if you remember that or not. He was spinning him so fast, he reached out there and popped it off. He was just fired up. But the thing I like the most is when Lat called him off, he came back, and I unloaded, and that pig dropped within probably about 5 or 10 feet. I mean, he hit pretty good.
Oh, you made a great shot.
Right there and fell down. But I know you were worried about me shooting the dog.
Well, Mike, there was a time in my life where I considered hog hunting with dogs the finest form of entertainment that existed to mankind. I mean, I was absolutely ate up with it, so I loved it. And thank you for the compliments on the dog, because I put a lot into them. But it was back, I didn't have any kids. I wasn't married.
Right. It was fun.
They were my babies. They were my most important thing, and there was nothing worth more to me than those dogs and the relationship I had with them to get them to do that. But yet Zion was the name of that dog. He's one of the best dogs I ever had. I ended up catching over 500 hogs with that dog, and he got to where over half of them he would bite the tails off, because that's, when a hog's running away from you like that, that's the first thing they come to. And if they can catch that, they can stop them. And biting them anywhere, in the hams or in the back or by their cod sack, they want to sit down. They want to protect that. So that's the whole goal there, to get them to stop, sit down, spin around and fight. A dog that comes up beside it and tries to catch on the ear, they're out in the middle of open pasture, and he comes up and tries to pass the tail and pass the body and catch on the ear, and he misses. Now all of a sudden that hog just turns, and that dog makes this big old 15, 20 8-foot loop out there. Now he's back in it, out of it. He's got to get back in it, chase it back down. It takes longer.
And a lot more of a chance of that dog getting hurt, too.
Oh, sure.
You get up there by the head. And I'll tell you something, exactly what you said. He popped that tail off, and that pig sat down.
He didn't like that.
Now.
He did not
He
like
wanted
that.
that cool sand.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit warm back there, right at the root. I got it off. I never did get the tail part of it, but I got all the other pieces. I think that pig's somewhere around here. We had a great time. Number 2 hog hunt I went with you. I liked it so much. You set up a hunt. I come out there. I brought 4 or 5 people with me. Matter of fact, we had the judge on here, the travel agent, Judge Tharp. He was on this hunt. Casey King was on this hunt. And I got a little bit, probably did something I probably shouldn't have, right off the rip.
Not you.
Nah, it was bad. I know, and I told my buddies it's my fault. Well, the owners of the property are there. We pull up. I had an excursion at the time, I think. Jacked up, camo wrap, the whole 9 yards. And I pulled an alley sweeper out of the back, big sticky. My buddy who owns a pawn shop let me borrow this 12-gauge, 23-round rotary clip. It's what the mob used to use. He told me they'd just sweep the alley with it. So I pull this thing out, and I start walking around like, I'm going to have some fun tonight. Well, of course, it didn't work out that way. Mike's fun. I had to put the gun back up. Had a blast.
We still had fun. We always have fun.
Oh, yeah. Caught a bunch of pigs. What happened after that? Where'd Lat go? He disappeared on me.
I know, man. Yeah, a lot to catch up on. But I've been Rocky Mountain way for about the last dozen years, living out Wyoming, hunting from Alaska down through Canada, Rocky Mountains, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada a little bit, New Mexico, and even on down into Old Mexico, a little bit of Arizona, and down into Old Mexico late for mule deer.
Right.
I've been really blessed going on a bunch of hunts, working in the firearms industry, building rifles, setting up shooting systems, sold a lot of optics, a lot of long range stuff. We did some of that stuff. Been involved with several TV shows, and the Mule Deer Foundation did a lot with that, and also the Wild Sheep Foundation.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot. With all those animals, and we were talking, before we went on the show, and you talked about all the hunts you've been on. What's the best? If you had to pick one out of all those hunts that you went on, Colorado, out west, wherever it was, what was the hunt and what'd you kill?
Mike, the answer to that's the next one, the one me and you go on. That's the best one, brother.
It sounds like a guy, doesn't he? But the one that stands out the most, if you had one story to tell, I want to hear it.
Well, hunt-wise, hunting bull elk in the Rocky Mountains, a horseback hunt where you're way back in the backcountry. Hunting elk early when they're bugling. I mean, if people can relate to hunting turkeys, spring gobbler, calling gobblers, getting them to come to them, it's the same way. But, it's an 800 and 900 pound animal that comes up and just thrashes, destroys whatever vegetation. Yeah, it's more intense.
And you could be part of that, right?
Well, yeah, and that's actually one of the techniques we use, especially I like to do a lot of it on horseback and, early archery hunting. They'll be bunched up in big groups before the bulls start getting their harem with their select cows. And there might be 100, 150, 200 head of elk and some timber, and you're riding your horses through it. Well, you might bump those elk. I mean, get within 100 yards of them before they're there, and you hear a little bit, hear some clanking when they're hitting rocks, or hear them, talking a little bit. Well, you can actually turn around, and we'll just start calling, and we'll just ride right back the same way, doing a complete 180 on the trail, and go on out, and I might drop you at right there at the last part of the trees coming out, and then I might go on another 50 to 100 yards on back with I'll take the animals with us, because those are just like decoys, and I'll keep calling, and a lot of times it'll just bring those elk right there, and they run over the top. That's the goal, to get him to run slap right over the top of you.
And I've seen some of those videos. So the best hunts you can think of are with other people versus yourself.
Absolutely,
correct?
Mike. I mean, I love this stuff. I found out something about myself. I'm not a trophy hunter.
Right.
I've been on a lot of trophy hunts. I've been on some stuff that's in the record book. That's not why we hunt. I've been blessed, been on a bunch of hunts, period. So you ought to be on a few good ones every once in a while. But I like to shoot early and often, and I have just as much fun hunting cow elk, taking kids, families, whatever, getting people killing 1, 2 elk a piece, lots of meat. Just as much fun with cow elk or doe deer or
Yeah.
as a trophy world-class mule deer. I mean, it's all great.
Right.
All hunting's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely love to. I get a lot out of hunting with other people.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I noticed with you right off the rip. Hunting. You didn't kill any of those pigs. You were out there entertaining, and you were wide open.
I claim them, just so you know.
Yeah.
When I say I've taken this many, this quantity number
Sure.
of this certain species, I want you to know I am actually counting. Even if you were
I
the one who
don't
took it,
blame you.
I count every one I was
Yeah.
in on.
Yeah, you can bet on it. And you know what? I've done a little bit of that alligator hunting. I've done that fishing. You can bet if you're on my boat and catch a 30-pound gag,
Then yeah.
we got a 30-pound
caught.
gag.
That's what we caught.
Right. It was
Exactly.
my boat.
Yeah, right.
And we
That's
both
right.
worked at it, and we got it. So
Teamwork.
passing it on is the biggest thing. I heard many years ago a saying, and I try to do it every year, and I try to do it with hunting and fishing. If you can turn somebody on to hunting for the first time, do it, because that's another
Absolutely.
sportsman. That's another guy that's going to help preserve nature. If you can take somebody fishing that doesn't fish, take them out there, catch a fish, and they start fishing, you've created that for the industry. You've created good for it, and teaching them the right way.
Something real, something
Yeah,
tangible. I mean, something
exactly.
that will be there for their whole life and they'll appreciate.
Yeah, and being right here, we get a lot of that opportunity. I know that some of the pictures you've sent me, just the biggest wolves and ibex and just monster. But out of all those, you like that elk the best.
Well, I like any hunt where there's a lot of action. I mean, we're gonna we're taking all this meat out and doing all this the politically correct way, but you can't kill animals all day long unless you start early,
That's right.
and you can't have a great hunt all day long unless you've got multiple tags, or we're hunting somewhere where
Man, I like that philosophy.
So even, I mean, don't be waiting around till the last day, the last hour, and creating all this unnecessary. That's a trophy hunter now. That's what trophy hunter. And I respect trophy hunters.
Yeah.
A real trophy hunter is the guy that actually comes on the hunt and doesn't shoot that big bull or that big buck the first day, and then gets an opportunity the last day of the hunt and still refuses that and does not shoot it because it does not meet the criteria.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lot of people think they're
Yeah.
a trophy hunter, they shoot something later in the hunt that they didn't shoot to start with. But what I mean is, we have to wait to be a trophy hunter. It's a different guy. I like to shoot early and often, kill early and often, Mike, where we're having fun.
We're
having a good day.
I'm with you on that one, man. That's for sure. It's like my buddy Buzzard Bruce says, you can't get drunk all day if you don't start in the
early.
morning. So he's drinking his non-dairy creamer. Well, I like that philosophy with hunting. You can't kill all day unless you start early in the morning.
That's right.
I've called myself, like, I go to Canada, and I want to shoot a trophy while I'm there. But my criteria for a trophy is based on management. It's not based on points. Like, I'm not one, even in Alabama or Georgia, Canada, wherever I'm at, I'm not one to count points on a shooter buck, because I feel like, for one, if I put my gun up there and look at him, and if I have to find out why I should shoot him, I don't need to shoot him. I'm talking myself into it.
Sure.
I'll give you an example, and this is a screw up. I'm sure all y'all want to hear this one. Of course, I had people telling me I screwed up that ain't got no mounts on the wall. I'm loaded with mounts, and I tell them, you got to sling bullets. You're going to make mistakes. The best guy with the biggest batting average strikes out.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? So it happens, but it hit me just when animals do, where you don't expect it, come from somewhere you didn't think. He's the shooter. And what I was looking at was we kind of age them, which is basically monster body this time of year.
Yeah.
We haven't hit the rut yet in Alabama. So I looked through my stand. I got my gun unloaded. I'm ready to walk back to the place because I got my buddy Judge Tharp. And if y'all remember this, I'm going to tell you this. He can't even say nothing about it because he ain't here. He told y'all I'm scared of the dark, which we know is a joke. I spent half my hunting life in the dark. How am I scared of it? He called me 10 minutes before the hunt was over and says, I can't see no more. Come get me. Okay, that's what I had last week. It was adult daycare. I had 3 of my buddies. They've all been on here, and it was daycare. Go put them out. And
You saying it was high maintenance, Mike?
Oh, my gosh. You know how them judges are. Fancy pants. They all had $100 jeans.
I didn't say that now, Judge.
Tommy Hilfiger camo. It was, Huck boots. It was just Salt Life stickers everywhere. You know the type. Anyway, I'm getting out of my stand to pick this guy up early because he's scared of the dark. And I look out the stand, and I see the buck 250 yards away. I see height and mass. Okay, right there I know he's a shooter. Don't matter if his horn's broke. Don't matter if he's a 15-point or a 6-point. He is a shooter.
He's got maturity on him, age, you know that.
I was about 90% sure. I threw the scope up. He turned sideways. I saw the body. I saw the sagging gut. I sent one down the pipe. He was just walking into a pine tree where it was either shoot or tell the story. You know what I did? I pulled the trigger. Well, I hit him in the brisket. I have enough respect for the animal. Even though I'll let lead fly, I'm going to spend time looking. He was a good deer. Waited till the next morning. There's I called bloodtrackers.com. For any of you out there, you lose an animal. They're nationwide, I think. You call them up, small fee. They come out, put the dog on it. This one found the deer. He chased him 3.9 miles. The dog wasn't anywhere close to him, hadn't bayed. The guy looked at me and said, that deer's not hurt.
That deer's not hurt. That's what I would think.
Hitting the brisket, that's why you found the blood 60 yards in instead, so I shot a little bit forward. You know what? I make mistakes, right? But I spent the time looking for it. I wanted to make sure that deer, because if I'm going to pull the trigger on something, I'm definitely wanting to retrieve it. Height and mass is all I was looking for in age. So the biggest deer I've ever shot, I never knew what he was. I saw 5 on one side, real big. I pulled the trigger. When I walked up to him, I counted points. He's the one that's sitting over there. Usually he's right here, 168. Yeah, 9.5-inch bases or something, 8-inch bases. Just massive with stuff coming out. That's the kind of, I say I'm a trophy hunter, but one thing I don't do is what I shoot day one is what I'll shoot the last day. And my gun case personally has about 4 or 5 tags that I paid for that I never shot. And one of those trips, best trip ever. I mean, I saw 12 moose. I saw the guide worked his butt off every day. We filled the truck up with fuel. That's what made it good. And that's where I learned that it's not always the kill. If you're looking for the kill, you're missing the whole hunt, because there's so much other stuff out there that most people don't see, whether it's the moose or the eagles or just nature in general is what I like.
Sure. Well, that you are a trophy hunter, and I look up to a true trophy hunter is just as happy with the hunt and the experience, whether they actually take an animal or not.
That's right.
And they're just as happy on the last day, just because they got to enjoy it and they got to see the animals they did. So that's a true trophy hunter. And back to that whitetail, you'll get a chance to shoot that big buck again if you work at it. I mean, 3.9 miles with a dog, that deer's not hurt. Well, I bet that deer was back feeding within 24 hours.
You know what was crazy about it? These new collars and stuff that they got these dogs on, we were standing in one spot watching this dog work, and that deer in that 3.9 miles only had another quarter mile to go right where I shot him. So he lives there.
Yeah.
And we knew that. He called the dog off. Everything was fine. And I have a feeling somebody, like when you were talking about trophy hunting, everything I shoot, you may not think's a trophy, but something about it's a trophy to me, Sure. And that's what really matters. And I saw in 10 days myself, I probably saw 30 or 40 deer in the last week. I pulled the trigger on
Good
one.
hunting.
So, I mean, we shot pigs, we shot coyotes, and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a great time. We got a second segment coming up. We're going to hear about what you're doing now. Lat's been all over the place. I mean, been on TV. He's back local, and we're going to talk about it on the next one, building guns and teaching people how to shoot. We will be right back. We're back. T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Dark Side, having some fun tonight with my buddy Lat. We're talking about pig hunting, we're talking about elk hunting, talking about all that stuff. But what I want to get into now, Lat, is you're back in town.
Yep.
And what are you into now? I know you're still enjoying the hunting, you're taking care of your kids, spending some great family time. I know that's your main objective right now, but also doing some building of rifles, right?
Yeah, we're building shooting systems from bolt action platforms. You can engage targets, out past 1,000 yards, to AR platforms. Get some good with running thermals, some night vision scopes, night vision binoculars, thermal optics on some AR setups. So we're doing some predator hunting at night, hunting hogs at night. Building a lot of these, it's a shooting system, so it's a turnkey system built specifically for the customer, and that's more than just a gun. It's a weapon and an optic, because we do some of them with crossbows even. So it's your weapon of choice built to where it fits you, and then optic of choice. Some of them have multiple optics where you can change them. Doing a load development, barrel break-in process, load development with custom stocks and custom ammo, and then building the system that a shooter can use for practical application of what they want. And when I build them, one of the special things I do when we build them, when we deliver them, I have people come and come do a shooting course,
Right.
And
so you teach them how to shoot when
exactly,
they buy one from you.
Yeah, exactly. Teach them, and a lot of people want a place to come and run whatever system they've had built. They want to practice with it and get comfortable with it, and then we've done some scenarios, which I've got to get you and your group in on, where, we go out, and once you get comfortable with the weapon, sighted in, zeroed, it's doing everything you want, you have consistency and repeatability, then we might change it up and go ride around in the buggy or vehicle. And
So you're going to teach us how to shoot from the truck? I'm liking this.
Well, yeah,
Or the buggy.
I'm gonna teach you how to build different shooting positions, real world application, real world hunting scenarios where you build shooting positions. I've got some 2-dimensional steel targets. They might be shaped like a hog or a coyote or a deer, or an elk, stag, whatever, and have those positioned out on property where we move. And then, just like you're hunting, you're glassing, you find that target. Now we have to range that target. We have to figure out a position where we're going to be able to shoot from, where we've got line of sight, no vegetation between us, and we've got to range it. We've got to get a wind reading. And when you've got a group of guys together, and girls, and do a lot with kids and youth, but you throw people together like that, it doesn't take very long before it becomes competition. People want to start beating the other one. Man, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I can tell you this from talking to you about building systems, dealing with thermal technology and the stuff that we got, shooting varmints or whatever you want to call them, eradicate. I'm all into that, and we're going to put something together. I want y'all to know that Lat's back in town now. He's going to be somebody that you can definitely come to Mahoney's and get his contact information. But right now, if somebody wants to get a hold of you to talk to you about a shooting course, which he does, you were telling me you do home courses?
Sure. Yeah, do a lot of stuff with youth and family. People getting in, buying guns for the first time, or maybe they've had guns, but they don't practice with them much, not real familiar with them. Maybe they want to pick out a different weapon or use the weapons they have, and going just simple, basic shooting fundamentals, stressing safety, and then we go more to a tactical, where your kids and wife might need to go in the house if there's a home invasion or something like that, where you need to move, in a security situation where you need to protect your family. Maybe you're not home. Maybe your family needs to know what to do when you're not there. do a little bit from basic all the way up to, we go out and act like we're super snipers sometimes. Got targets set out at 1,200 yards and beyond, range and shooter spotter relationships, and that's more advanced, like advanced wind doping.
I can definitely tell you that you need to get involved with that if you're into hunting at all. Definitely get with me. We're going to be setting up. We've talked about some hog hunts out of helicopters. We've talked about we got to check on the legalities of that here in Florida.
Always.
If not, we may run to Texas. And by the way, Butler Boyd is a sponsor of this show, Attorneys at Law. So if anybody has any questions about what we're talking about, give Butler and Boyd a call over there. They'll do all the answering for us. But of course, everything we're going to do is above board. I'm really interested in some of the thermal technology we were talking about, something to go shoot coyotes with, shoot pigs with. I'm really looking forward to getting into some of that. We're right in the middle of deer season now. For me, up in Alabama, it goes all the way to February. But I'm going to put something together, and we're going to be talking about it on the radio show. We're going to talk about it on this show. We'll put some stuff out on social media, and we'll get a few groups together to go learn how to do some of that stuff. I know that the one thing I've taught my family, that if something happens at the house and I'm not there, let the dog out. The dog's going to give you time to run because, just the confidence, but it will be definitely good for everybody in the house to understand. There was one time I was talking to my sister about shooting guns, and of course she's not really into shooting guns, and the main thing I told her is exactly what you said. It starts with safety and understanding the gun, being able to disable it. And I relate it to training dogs. When you're training a dog, everybody wants their dog to be able to bite like that. If you're threatened, bite. But that's not the first thing you teach a dog. The first thing you teach a dog is stop.
Whoa.
Once you can get him to stop what he's doing in any situation, now we're going to try the next step. Well, I feel the same way with guns. Safety. There is no do-overs with guns. And my kids will tell you, I've had people tell me, you are one of the safest guys I've ever been around. Because most of the time, and that's a great compliment, most of the time, I'm never going to have one in the chamber. If I'm in the camp, if I'm in my truck, well, maybe if I'm in my truck and I'm by myself. And
Wherever that's legal.
Yeah, wherever that's legal. And there's a big deer out there, and I'm by myself with no witnesses. Other than that, I'm unloaded. I may even open the bolt. The
Sure.
guy in Canada riding in a truck told me one time, if you open that bolt, I'll never ask you if it's unloaded. When the bolt's up, it cannot shoot.
That's right.
And that doesn't mean if the bolt has to stay open.
No.
Just that lever tilted up tells you that gun's not firing by accident, which they don't fire by accident anyway. Somebody does something stupid, but
Yeah,
it's I never put my finger. One of the things I taught myself right off the bat that I saw somebody else doing, when I go to shoot, I put my finger on the back of the trigger guard, pushing up against the trigger guard. Once I get my gun into place, the crosshairs are on, I don't have to look. I reach around. I know the trigger's a light trigger. It's fixing to happen. The gun's completely still, I hope, and we're going to fire one. But that's one of the things I liked about what you were saying, is talking about the safety. How can somebody get a hold of you? They watch this video. They don't want to call me here and get the runaround. How can somebody get a hold of you to build a gun or to go to a class?
Yeah, well, email. Southern Draw is the name of my company. So emails, simple as info@southerndrawco, Southern Draw Co, info@southerndrawco.com.
That's a great one right there. Lat, we've done a lot together as far as hunting in a little bit of time, it seems like, and I'm really looking forward to spending some time back here, you being local now, back in town, and maybe go kill some stuff, huh?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And we'll start early so we can have a good day.
So we can kill all day. I like that philosophy. That's a good one, man.
You always use the meat, man.
Yeah. Are your classes like a monthly thing, or are you setting that up per person, like to their schedule? Is it weekends? Is it?
Right. Well, anytime. I mean, anytime any day that it's convenient, it works, weather permitting. In the summertime in Florida, which, well, we got about 6 months of summer down here. That's one thing I miss about the Rocky Mountains. It's a
Yeah.
lot warmer temperature down
Yeah.
here, man. It's been gone. It's been gone
It
for
gets
12
hot.
years. Yes, it does. But your atmospheric conditions are, you got more mirage. It's hard to shoot. I mean, just you being hot, sweating, getting sweat in your eyes makes it more difficult. So, you certainly try to coordinate that around the evenings and different things. But I mean, this time of year, man, whenever we've got that, cold front comes through and wind blows the next day and then all clears out and you got a high pressure system over us, high pressure, clear blue skies, that's an excellent time to be shooting down here.
Yeah, I know. It was a few years ago, and for anybody out there that hunts, I would never tell you that I could hit a target at 500 or 600 yards. And
Sure you can.
you proved me wrong. I went out there, and of course I shot it, but y'all did all the calculations, and it was pretty amazing. They had a spotter. I fired the first one. He replied to the guy, I guess, with a computer, and he said he's 8 inches high. I saw it hit the bank. Well, all of a sudden, y'all do 2 or 3 adjustments. You tell me shoot it again. Boom, hit the target, 600 yards. It was pretty impressive for me. Of course, when you tell somebody I hit a target at 600 yards, and they go, "Wow, that was really good," well, they don't realize that you did nothing more than just shoot, which I do know. There's an art to. You got to be still when you pull that trigger. No jerking, no nothing. And I think the guns y'all had, I was using y'all's guns, which were set up for long range. Trigger pull didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, probably about a pound and a half.
Yeah, a pound and a half. And I'm probably used to 2.5. With a Remington is what I shoot with a 2.5 pound. But I'll tell you, it was nice. And you do all those work on the guns too, right?
Oh, sure. And then obviously the pound and a half trigger is a light trigger for a hunting trigger, but 2.5 pound range, got them, 4 and 5 pounds, 4.5 pounds, even up to 6, 7 pounds, depending on tactical stuff. It's just another component in it. And the gun is, that's why I call it a shooting system. It's a tool,
Yeah.
it's a turnkey system where, because you're right about, how easy it seemed. I mean, because what we did with that first shot, man, that was a spotter shot, and what I was doing, I was in the spotting scope spotting for you, and I was your spotter, and I was ranging, calling wind, and giving you a hold for wind. But we'd already dialed to the distance, and we had you shoot, and you made a good shot. I mean, technically you should shoot a 3-shot group, but we'd already been shooting that rifle that day, and it was dead on, man. We were shooting stuff out 700, 800 yards. So what we did with that, whatever 580 or 600 yard shot, we had you shoot, man. I mean, you might have even shot twice, but when we shoot and we've dialed for it, we doped one, data on previous engagements, dopes one thing, we doped it, we dialed to it. We had you shoot, and then from your point of aim, which you're aiming, you're aiming at the bullseye in the reticle, and your point of impact, we made a correction for your particular to zero you to your eye to that gun. I mean, right before we did that, we adjusted focus and fine-tuned parallax
Right.
and all that, and got it tuned to you. And then when we had you shoot like that, remember we did some dry firing first before we went live. We did some
Right.
dry firing, get everything comfortable where your cheek welds in the exact same place, so everything is consistent for repeatability. And when we had you shoot, and this is where you marked, we simply made an adjustment to that turret on that shooting system. And then we had you set up, dialed in at, around 600 yards. We don't have to change that anymore, Mike. I mean, with a 600 yard zero, I can have you within a minute of angle, and within an inch at 100 yards from shooting point blank range, any of your mid range stuff, out to 700, 800 yards. We don't. What I'm saying, we don't have to have that second shot. We
Right.
can go hot live on real targets,
Sure.
live animals. Once we've zeroed it to your eye, and of course we're going to practice, be consistent. But after 7 or 8 shots where you're hitting exactly where you're aiming,
there.
we don't have to have that spotter shot. We use the spotter shot to begin with to get you zeroed and set up specifically to that weapon in that atmospheric condition, in that temperature and elevation where we are, and focus to your eye, all that.
There's quite a bit that goes into it, I can tell you that. One of the problems I have with hunting and hitting that target is I shoot different guns with different scopes and different trigger pulls, and sometimes that makes a difference when you pull a
Absolutely.
gun out, and it may make you shoot a little bit different. So it's definitely a learning experience. And if there's some people out there that maybe missed some stuff this year, I recommend that you get with me. We're going to be setting up a couple of these schools. I kind of like the one with my buddies, and we're going to drive around in the truck and place bets on who can hit what the quickest. And I'm holding the spotlight and the gun, I think. I think that's
You're
what
holding
we're
all
gonna
the
do.
cards, Mahoney. I know that. I've always known that.
Yeah, it works that way. Always got to tip the pendulum a little bit in my direction.
That's right.
It seems to work a little bit better. But Lat, man, I really appreciate you coming out today. I'm excited. When I talked to you today, I just got back from Alabama, and you gave me a call, and I said, man, you're in town. I got to have you on. Been on TV, all kinds of TV shows, long range hunting, and now he's building all his own stuff right here in Hillsborough County. So y'all get a hold of me or look him up. What was the website again?
info@southerndrawco.com.
Look him up, guys. Great guy to be around. You can bring him around anybody. I've had a bunch of friends. We've always had success. And what I mean by that, just like we talked about earlier, a great time. Always opportunity and a great time. Kind of like coming in here, T.A. Mahoney,
Isn't
right?
it though?
Yeah, just a great time. You may get something to eat, something I shot. But we appreciate everybody tuning in today. Thanks, Lat, for coming out. We're going to wrap this one up, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, Mike.